All right, hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Rob here, and today we're talking Ghostbusters Afterlife, a movie that really, to me, feels like if they didn't make it now, it would never get made in the way that it was presented to us with Ghostbusters Afterlife. And after the journey that this movie has gone on to get to us, the doubts that I had as time went on, I'm very happy to say that I was very, very surprised at how I felt about this movie. So if you like what we're doing here on the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. It just helps with my motivation to make more content for everybody. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. If you're a new subscriber, welcome to the conversation as we discuss this. Now, this is mostly spoiler-free, right? We're not going to talk spoilers until the end. So if you haven't seen this movie, no worries. There will be plenty of time to get out, come back, watch the spoiler part of this, because it's the spoilers. You know, a movie like this has to have spoilers, right? Or a review for this has to have spoilers in some context. I couldn't. It's Ghostbusters, man. I've been living with this for most of my life, and so that's where we gotta start this discussion. Is that the why was this movie made? All right, I love the first Ghostbusters movie. I remember the day that we saw the video for Ghostbusters, Ray Parker Jr. The movie had come out that day. It was the first time I saw the music video. I remember we went and saw it that night. And going to see Ghostbusters is a very special moment in my life. And it's a movie that has stayed with me since then. I love the first Ghostbusters movie. It is lightning in a bottle, as many people have said. And that's about it where it comes from me. It's just a solid, awesome. Ghostbusters 2, even I, at the age that I was at, I believe I was like 14 when that came out, felt like, was this the best you could do? And then nothing, right? You have the animated series, you know, you have the video game that came out a little while back in the remaster that I actually have right here. This is a solid game. The gameplay is not perfect, but the story's good and it gets everybody back. All the actors are in this. Could be a little bit better, but I mean, it was, to me, that game is better than Ghostbusters 2. And then we have the 2016 thing, which I'm not gonna talk about. I didn't like it. And the thing is like I just didn't think it was funny. I think that, but the thing is like I feel like Ghostbusters was always an accidental comedy. Like the comedy was, comedy in Ghostbusters is really interesting, but I never found Ghostbusters to be a flat out comedy. They made the 26 Ghostbusters like a straight up comedy to me, and I feel like the balance was not there because in the end, Ghostbusters is not just it's a story about some guys who discover that the ability to that they can make a profit off of capturing ghosts, and the comedy comes from the situations and the solidness of the way that the different actors play off each other, the personalities of the different actors that they bring to the table, and it's such an original idea, something that is been proven to be poison to the box office because people, as much as we say we want originality and that there's nothing new at the movies, then there's something new and then people don't go see it. And then we get a million reboots and 20 movies from the same franchise with slowly diminishing returns in some cases and some that somehow keep getting more popular. But Ghostbusters, like, I was never the biggest, most gigantic Ghostbusters fan. Like, I really like it, but I don't have a proton pack. I mean, I'd have a proton pack if I could afford one. Like, I mean, if it's on the lower end of priorities, I'm a fan of so much. You know, I only have so much money, right? Like, if I could get my hands on a Ghostbuster outfit, if I had the money for all of that stuff, I'd have all of it. But I'm not the kind of super fan that follows every single thing about Ghostbusters. There's just this thing about that series, though. Even two, because I love the actors so much that are the characters that those actors played more than the actors themselves. Like except for Bill Murray, who I just love. So when it came to making Ghostbusters Afterlife, it was like, well, what was the point of all this? Why are they doing this? The talk of Ghostbusters 3, all the continuing it on, and all the battles that just get another Ghostbusters movie out there. Is it only for financial reasons? Is it, like all the different reasons that someone makes anything. I mean, the companies are only in it for the money, right? They don't really care that you're getting, you're excited. They're happy to see something that they have an IP for in demand. But in the end, after seeing this movie, I'm really glad it was made. But again, like I said, if they didn't make it now, it probably wouldn't. This movie would not be able to exist in its current form because too much time has gone by. And we already lost one Ghostbuster. It's hard to make this movie without all the pieces. It's like if the Beastie Boys were to suddenly go on tour again, and you'd be like, it'd be fine, right? I'm sure they'd make an entertaining show, but something would be missing. And in this, when you lose Harold Ramis, it is like something's missing. But in this case, they find a way to work that to actually be really important to the story, and in some ways you didn't really lose the character. There's just a new take on it with the loss of the actor. This movie has gotten criticism over the nostalgia factor. That's another thing that we need to discuss. Because I feel like my generation, the Gen Xers, and maybe the tail end of some of the boomers, the reason nostalgia exists, like in this current form, is because of us. We're the ones to blame. We're the ones who love our stuff, and I'm not saying that new fans don't love stuff passionately. If you were born in the 90s and the aughts and you're 10 years old right now, nobody's saying that you don't love the thing you love with all your heart. But we loved the things that we loved so much that we will not let them die. Even if some of them probably should. So when you're going to make a movie like this, it's a huge component of the reason it's made, the reason it exists, is because of nostalgia. The company is thinking about money, but it's our love of nostalgia that keeps us coming back. And then when we don't like something, we try to throw these things at, well, it's all just nostalgia. Well, if you're going to make a movie that is a follow-up to the first two films, and it is not going to forget everything like 2016 did, and bring in the actors to play different roles, and make jokes out of them, and make it cringy, yeah, you either completely say that you completely just mention the history and completely phase out those characters, and you run the risk, not even run the risk, you are going to exclude the people that have been following this and wanting this forever, and you're going to piss them off, and God help you if you piss anyone off in any fandom these days. They're going to come after you with pitchforks, and, but online. So you have to have that stuff in there. And then they still try to hit you with the nostalgia. You give them what they want, and then they complain about it. That's where we are in this world. And it's pathetic. Because when I went to see this movie, I felt a couple of things like solidly coming out of it. One was, if you're a kid, if you're around the age group of Finn Wolfhard. Is that his name? Like he's like 15, down to McKenna Grace's age. If you're in that age group, this is something that you guys can really like. That you can. It's a jumping on point for all of them, for everybody that's been introduced to the first Ghostbusters. And it definitely revitalizes the merchandising that they're I'm sure they're thinking about, so that the company can make money. But I was really pleased to watch this, as it felt like a movie that came out when I was young. It had that tone. It had that feel of some of the most special movies from my generation that didn't talk down to kids and didn't make kids too smart. Forget that McKenna Grace's character in this is very smart. But there was a tone to the way that they wrote the kids that felt like a tone that was written for a lot of the kids and teenagers in like 80s, especially 80s movies like The Goonies and stuff like that. I always keep talking about how there's no movies like what came out in my generation currently for this generation. And this movie to me feels like it's the first one in forever. And I hope that the audience, the youth that finds this audience, gets to appreciate that and holds on to this movie like we hold on to movies like The Goonies. I think this is a very special movie in that case. And at the same time, it made me feel like that. I felt like I was back in that time period. I felt like how I felt when I first saw Ghostbusters, because of that tone, because of how this movie made me feel, because it wasn't in a hurry to just keep getting to action scene and action scene. We sit and we deal with the world and the characters and what is happening. And it's not just joke after joke after joke, but like some of the jokes are just kind of come in and are subtle, and the way that like some of the obvious jokes, like literally McKenna Grace says a lot of jokes through the movie, but the way that have her present them to us is really fun. And it doesn't hurt that you've got Paul Rudd, who's, I look, you either like him or you don't. I really like Paul Rudd, have since Clueless. And you got Carrie Coon, and if you know my channel at all, if you come here with any regularity at all, you know that I think Carrie Coon is like, I love her. as one says, I'm crushing hard on Carrie Coon, but it's not just that I want her to whisk me away from my life, but she's also one of the best actors I have seen in the last 20 years. She's phenomenal. So you got two great adult actors. You've got McKenna Grace, who, since she has been very young, has been killing it as an actress. Finn Wolfhard, look, he's the Timothée Chalamet of television shows, right? He's the Stranger Things kid. I also really liked the young man who played Podcast in this. Like, I really liked all the actors in this movie. I thought it was really well acted. I thought the writing was really good. And like I said, it made me feel like I was back in that time period. And by the end of it, I just was sitting there fascinated. And it felt like a 2-hour movie. It didn't feel too long. It didn't feel too short. And it hit all these beats that I just didn't know it was going to hit with me. And while you can say that it is playing it a little safe and going like the Force Awakens route, where we get a lot of the same things from the original Ghostbusters in here, I'm fine with that. If you're not fine with that, great. Good for you. You don't have to. You don't have to like it. If this is just another monumental disappointment for you, life is full of disappointments. This will not be the last one for you. I hate to tell you that. But I was able to find comfort in this. And because Too many things to complain about already in this world. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I didn't absolutely enjoy 100% of this film. Was it the best movie I've seen all year? No. But it's close. But the last couple of years have been pretty bad. It's been pretty awful. There's been some alright, decent entertainment, but man, not since 2019 have there been things. And honestly, since this was supposed to come out a long time ago, I mean, I almost can't even call it a 2021 movie. I mean, McKenna Grace, for all I know, can probably drive a car by now. I don't know. I didn't look at how old she is in real life, but when they filmed this, right? I don't know. But I really liked it. Now, if you don't know the plot of this movie, I mean, we're 15 minutes in, almost 16 minutes into this video, right? If you don't know the plot of this movie, I don't want to ruin anything. But here we go. Basic bones is that Egon moved out to the middle of nowhere, broke up the Ghostbusters because something was happening that nobody believed. He's living on this farm, and he dies. You know, that's the basis. If you've seen the trailer, you know that this is what's happening. They go out there. His family goes out there to settle his accounts, make a little money off the property, and go home. And what happens is, slowly but surely, McKenna Grace, her character, slowly finds out about her past, her family's past, of him being a Ghostbuster and what's really going on this property in this small town that keeps shaking like there's an earthquake. And if you know the lore and you understand the world that this takes place in, you kind of get the gist of what's really going on pretty quickly. But that doesn't matter. It's the characters discovering things. It's a coming of age story in a way, but also just it's a family movie. It's a movie about family loss and abandonment, with Carrie Coon's character being Egon's daughter, and feeling abandoned by him. And I don't want to get into the logistics of like this secret family, that how could he have a grown daughter that nobody knew about, because it's 2020 now, and if you think about it, it's like 30 years ago when this movie came out. Not even. And Carrie Coon's an actress that's about my age. The math doesn't quite add up. I don't care. I'm not going to be one of those people that's just like, that has to do that. Okay, well, by this account, it's a movie. Sometimes you just have to let these kind of things go. I'm choosing to let it go because it's not important. It's not, in the end, those kind of things. Like, if there's something major in this that I felt like was really a down, pulled the movie down lower to me, I'd say it. Right? I'd say something. I don't ignore things that bother me in a film. If I had something really bad to say about this, I would. But it's her dealing with the abandonment that she feels from her father. And then you have Paul Rudd being the summer school teacher, who's kind of our exposition guy / love interest. The guy who kind of explains the world of the Ghostbusters to the kids. And slowly but surely, we get to where we need to get to as far as the mystery of what's going on, the ghosts, the busting, all the finding of things that, all have this nostalgic bouquet about them, but is done so well by Jason Reitman, which the thumbnail says in here. Who you going to call? Jason Reitman. Because you could go, oh, well, it's the son of Ivan Reitman, but so you don't even know. But if you know Jason Reitman, he is a very accomplished director of his own right. And in a lot of ways, to me, I look at the two careers of Ivan and Jason, and to be honest with you, they're both completely different. Jason to me is a very, 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 makes a lot of very good movies. Whether it's Juno, Up in the Air, my personal favorite of his is Thank You for Smoking, an underappreciated, under-talked about satirical masterpiece starring Aaron Eckhart. This guy is great. So, I mean, I'm actually surprised that they could get his son to make a movie that's like a big blockbuster film that he doesn't really do. And then then he proves to be very deftly good at that. He took a lot of care into making this film. And he didn't have to do, like, this is, again, like, all these things had to happen. All these pieces had to come into place. And you had to get a director that could just really, that knows how to make good films, put this all together. I'm worried for future films that will clearly come after this about the IP that will, if they don't have somebody that either have Jason Reitman or somebody of that caliber at the helm, we're just going to go right back to diminishing returns and diminishing quality. But we have right here in this movie, this little microcosm of a great, you could say, like, final send-off for the original film. You can include two in that statement. That we've gone all this way to finally get here, and if we get nothing else, we got this great little nugget of a movie that brings it all home. And hits you with the nostalgia near the end. It's really, really good. And it made me feel good. It made me happy. And it didn't outstay its welcome, and it came when it was necessary. By the end of the movie, when the Ghostbusters song started playing, all I could think of was, oh my gosh, I'm in a theater in 2021. I just sat through a really good movie, and it just happened to be the third Ghostbusters movie. What I consider to be the third Ghostbusters movie. And I'm hearing the theme song, and I'm feeling good about it. There is a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene to this. And we're going to talk about some end spoilers here. So if you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend checking it out. It is probably one of the best things out there right now, easily. If you haven't seen Eternals, look, Eternals is 2.5 hours long. I liked it. A lot of people didn't. This, I feel, again, can be just as polarizing as anything else, but it shouldn't be considered that. And if you can't get over some things, or if you're one of those people who loved the 2016 movie and thinks this is a step backwards, get over it, man. Move on. There's a million other things to watch. That's not condescending. It's just, Jesus Christ, man. Do we really need to complain about every single thing like it's the end of the world? So anyway, here are the spoilers that we have to talk about. So there's a couple of very interesting cameos in this that I want to talk about before we get to the big stuff. One is J.K. Simmons' blink and you'll miss it cameo where he plays Ivor Shandor, the guy who has been obsessed with Gozer and all this stuff the whole time. They find he's got his body there, and at the end of the movie when he faces Gozer, he comes out of his thing and he's like, "Hi, I'm Ivor Shandor, and I've been," and it's J.K. Simmons, and I'm like, "That's J.K. Simmons," and immediately he is ripped in half by Gozer, and Gozer, the version of the girl at the end of the first Ghostbusters movie that looks like the flat top punk rock girl that is just very crazy looking, is back, but it's not the same actress. And I'm just gonna make sure. I'm gonna make doubly sure that I'm right about this. I had to be sure because I didn't IMDb it or anything. But Gozer's played by Olivia Wilde, and it was the eyes. That girl's eyes, they're like cat eyes, and they are unmistakable. But I had to make doubly sure. So Olivia Wilde plays Gozer, the Gozerian, which was that works. That really works. Thought that was just really interesting casting because you really could put anybody in there. Boy, did that was pretty cool. Uh, so yeah, then we got to talk about how they handled everything else, right? So we know that Egon was at the beginning of the movie. He dies, and we also know that he's been guiding McKenna Grace in the house to direct her towards everything she needs. And I really thought McKenna Grace was so good in this. I loved her in this. I loved that she's the new Egon. I don't care, like she's, oh, another smart girl. Girls can be smart, guys. Get over it. Another girl scientist, little Mary Sue. She was great. Ignore anybody out there that says any different. She was absolutely fantastic. The way she delivered those jokes and stuff in this movie, I found her to be an absolute delight. She just continues to prove to be an amazing, gonna be just, by the time she's 30, that girl's gonna have probably a couple Oscars. Anyway, so Egon, Harold Ramis, they do bring him back in ghost form. They did the best they could. I mean, he doesn't talk. Ghosts don't have to talk. They get around all that. I thought that the effect looked really good. And it was look, I think Harold Ramis would be like, if I'm dead, just put me, just do the right thing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what Harold Ramis would want. But I'd like to think that what they did, he'd be like, okay with. I don't think it was too much. I think it was very respectful. And they made the dead character, the dead actor, be integral to the plot. The most important click to this whole thing was that Egon's plan to save us all fails with a power outage. And maybe we went a long way to just fix the power, but it was the journey along the way and the characters learning everything and pulling everybody back in. That one little thing that goes wrong brought everyone back together. I thought it was so cool that he made the whole piece of land a giant trap. That's cool. It's just cool. And then, yes, when they call Dan Aykroyd's Ray, and we get to find out, we see Annie Potts' character earlier, and we find out all these little things about Winston and Peter Venkman, what they've all been doing, right? And that could have been it. They could have just left it at that, right? But no, what had to happen, because there's also that stuff that, you talk about the fall of Harold Ramis and Bill Murray over Groundhog Day and stuff like that, and that things hadn't been good for them for a while, and this is that way of, bringing it all back. So they show up when they need to show up because whatever it was that they were doing out in the world, nothing was more important than when they were Ghostbusters. And that in their heart, like Winston says at the end of the movie, I'm always going to be a Ghostbuster, right? I've done all this stuff, but in here, I'm a Ghostbuster. And they came back when they needed to come back. And I loved it. And I loved how Peter just instantly starts talking smack to Gozer again. It's not too much, and they don't wear out their welcome, and they don't, yes, once those three actors show up, of course it's going to be like, the Ghostbusters are here. It's going to kind of suddenly take over the film for a minute, because it should. The OG guys are here, except they don't run the thing. They're a bunch of old guys now, so it's still a whole group effort, and in the end, everybody has their part to play to stop what happens. And really, the whole thing that happens, like you could say, is this rehash of the first movie, but really what the plot was for the whole angle that Egon had was what we did couldn't be contained. It's going to, we have to, he moved it out there because he had, the order to really contain it, he needed something much bigger. He couldn't do it in New York. He ran out there in the middle of the night. It's just really, it was just so satisfying to see it all come together. And to see Carrie Coon's character have that arc that she finds everything that her dad had actually been paying attention this whole time. And maybe that's a little too easy and maybe a little too fast. But it still was a resolution that was, like, I felt earned. I loved the Stay Puft Marshmallow Men, the little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men. I loved Paul Rudd running from them. I loved that they, basically Carrie and Paul were the Sigourney and Rick Moranis characters in this, where they became the dogs, the demon dogs. And again, it also, confirms what a lot of people thought of what happened between Rick Moranis and Sigourney Weaver. How do you, like there's the gatekeeper and the keymaster, and a key goes into the, things have to... I mean, that's for a movie that a lot of kids love. There's a lot of innuendo and a lot of under the, subtlety stuff right under the surface that is kind of dark. It's kind of dark, and it's amazing how they've managed to take, like, this weird thing that is really for adults and marketed it, and somehow got marketed and more famous as it went along for kids. It's something that is so... It doesn't matter if you're old or young. This hits everyone. And when they do it right, it can be something that everybody can enjoy on some level. And that's what this movie delivers on, is a movie that everyone can like. And that's rare. It's a rare thing. And if the people that want to hate on everything, if they could pull the stick from their butts for just 1 second and realize that life is too short to make everything so awful, you could actually enjoy a minute and see a Ghostbusters movie that we've been waiting for 30 years. So anyway, that's my take on Ghostbusters Afterlife. I really liked it, and I hope that what they did here carries over into other movies, because you hit the post-credits scene, we've got Winston clearly getting ready to restart the Ghostbusters again in some fashion. The mid-credits scene with Peter and Sigourney, or Peter and Dana recreating the shocking of the people that Peter used to do, I thought was just a sweet little moment for fans, and it was just really hilarious watching these two actors just do a silly scene together. So anyway, if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, and the bell for all notifications. I'm trying to make shorter videos, and I talked about this for a lot longer than I thought I was going to. So I hope you guys liked it. If anybody who made it this far, have a good, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.